Wilderness Inquiry is, you know, it's a 501c3 organization, and you know, our budget's about $2.5 million. We have our headquarters in Dinkytown, but we operate, well, in Minnesota, North America, really all over the world. Because one of the unique things about Wilderness Inquiry is that we're just as much for people who don't have a disability or a quote-unquote disadvantage as we are for those who do. Because our mission of inclusion is very dependent on having everybody, you know, in the boat, literally. So we do trips and adventures to Kenya and Tanzania and Costa Rica, and then also right over here on the Mississippi River. And we have really 5 programs. You know, when we started out, we were doing the trips to the Boundary Waters, so they were really more the adventure travel, if you will. And this was before they used that term. But so that's still a core of what we do. So we do sea kayaking and, you know, dog sledding and canoeing and all of that kind of stuff, hiking. And we do that in great places, national parks, Yellowstone, Possum Islands, Olympic, Hawaii, Volcanoes National Park, a great place, you should go there. So over time, we developed other programs. When we had our own kids, we started a family program, and it's still going to this day. And it really is designed to help provide supports for families who otherwise may not be able to get out and enjoy the outdoors. We initially thought, oh, it would be for parents who have a child with a disability. And we do that. But a lot of parents who have a disability. And then also now we realize a lot of single moms, a lot of the non-traditional users of the outdoors, you know, kind of come to us. They want to experience it, but they don't really know how to start. So that's why they come to us. We also started a program called Gateway to Adventure, which works with people with developmental disabilities. One thing we learned early on, and you know, we didn't have any real formal training in quote-unquote disability. I actually think that's an advantage, because our whole idea was to provide inclusive opportunities for everyone. But you know, what we realized is that some people need a little bit of a head start in terms of training and socialization, especially people who might have a cognitive disability, like a traumatic brain injury or some form of developmental disability. So we have a program that works with people to give them a boost so that they can learn basic skills, how to set up a tent, how to maintain personal hygiene in the outdoors, that kind of thing. You know, it's before they become integrated into a quote-unquote mainstream type trip. 1976, there was a controversy over the use of the Boundary Waters canoe area. Senator Wendell Anderson at the time made a comment about how removing motors from the Boundary Waters would discriminate against the handicapped, elderly, and women, because without motors they would never be able to enjoy the wilderness on their own. You know, it kind of got our dander up, and you know, we were full of passionate students and decided we'd prove them wrong. So I had befriended Paul Shirkey, who was the MPIRG director at St. John's at the time, and called him up and said, hey, you know, you want to do a canoe trip together to prove this argument wrong? And he said, sure, let's do it. Planned a trip for two 20-year-old guys. You know, it was 100 miles, 22 portages. I mean, a real kicking trip. And we had 2 people who use wheelchairs and 2 fellows who were deaf, and then a couple of our friends. And I'll never forget, I was walking across a portage trail between 2 lakes, going into a big lake called Lac La Croix, which is on the US-Canada border. And woman, Margot Imdick, was using her wheelchair, and she wanted to prove to herself that she could get across this portage alone without any assistance. And I'll never forget watching her drag her chair and crawl across that portage over logs and rocks, and you know, we would stop to help her and she'd yell at us, you know, leave me alone, I'm going to do this on my own. And it was at that moment, I think, that for both Paul and I, and really others on the trip, that we saw that, you know, our worlds were transcended, I guess I would say. And we realized then that we were onto something that we didn't anticipate. So we proved the argument that, you know, you didn't need motors to enjoy the wilderness, but in the process discovered so much more. I mean, really the depth and power of that kind of shared experience, and how it changed our worldview. In 2006, 2008, we had a big turning point in our organization. We knew that kids, especially urban youth, were not getting outdoors. Participation in places like the Boundary Waters and other outdoor venues was, dropping like a stone. There was a study by Minnesota State Parks which said that state park use is high, but there's no one under 40 there. So we'd been partners with the National Park Service and other outdoor organizations for many years, but we partnered with the National Park Service and a group called the Mississippi River Fund to create this program called Urban Wilderness Canoe Adventures. And right off the bat, we set a big, hairy, audacious goal, if you know that term, to serve 10,000 kids a year in the Twin Cities metro area and to get them exposed to the Mississippi River in those big Voyageur canoes. And at first, it was it was a big goal. I mean, it was something we put out there, but we built on that. And in the first year, I think we served like 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 kids. And by the third year, we were up to 10,000. This year, we expect to serve like 13,000 or 14,000. And really, what it is, it's an introduction to the wilderness, if you will, that's right in your backyard. So that program has really grown to become a major part of what we do. And we partner with Minneapolis and St. Paul Public Schools, as well as many, many others. In these experiences, we do a lot of different activities that engage the kids. And for example, we net invertebrates and things in the river and count minnows and indicator species. And what we found is every kid loves a critter. And things that move, I mean, it's just fascinating for all children. I don't care who they are. And it's that kind of engagement which what draws them in. And it takes them out of the classroom and where they might be distracted or bored, and really makes learning fun and makes learning engaging, and that's what we're trying to pull off. And the two issues that we're doing, one is the whole connection with the natural world piece, but the other one is the achievement gap. As what this is doing is helping to provide experiential learning. We call it place-based learning, for the public schools. Our federal partners and others encouraged us to kind of showcase this around the country. And President Obama had this America's Great Outdoors initiative. So we took it to Washington, D.C. and went to the Anacostia River, which is a tributary of the Potomac, and took 1,000 kids paddling on the Anacostia. These were D.C. public school kids. And at first we did it just kind of as a demonstration, but they invited us back the next year. We decided, oh, what the heck, we'll go do it. So we went back, and after about 2 years, we realized that this was happening in these eastern cities. So we started this program called the Canoe Mobile, which is really the national extension of the Urban Wilderness Canoe Adventures program. And of course, you're familiar with the bookmobile, bringing literacy, in that case, to rural America. The Canoe Mobile brings environmental literacy to urban America. Last year we went to 17 cities, including New York, Washington, D.C., Philadelphia, Chicago, Louisville, Cincinnati, mostly in the east. This year we'll probably be in 20, 22, 23 cities, adding Detroit and Baltimore. And it's been a phenomenal venture of, engaging school kids, school districts, local partners, federal partners, in discovering their own urban waters, if you will. Every time that we've gone, then we've been invited back again and again and again. I think about introducing change, if you will. To me, I've had, my wife describes change as my middle name, and that I'm never content to be, doing one thing. And I think there's truth in that. I love to grow and take advantage of opportunities and see opportunities, and kind of look for them. A lot of times they're kind of laying all around and, people don't notice them or see them. And I really enjoy the problem-solving aspects of figuring out, for example, like this youth canoe program, the Urban Wilderness Canoe Adventures. How do you really figure out to do something like that at scale? Because I'm at a point in my career, if we're not doing it at scale, it's not that interesting to me. 3/4 of the battle, I mean, you have the vision, and that's one thing, but 3/4 of the battle is believing in it and believing that you can do it. If you believe you can do it, then really it is more possible. How do you get to that point of kind of believing in what you're doing, still responding to the outside world, not not getting arrogant about it, you know, not being filled with hubris that you know better, but still pushing on. And that's kind of the, you know, to me, when you ask, for example, what's an entrepreneur, I think that's kind of the secret sauce. I mean, the entrepreneur gets kicked off the horse just like everybody else, but they get back on and they keep riding.